picking up the pace a little bit here. This slide, volcanoes happen when pressure at the Earth's core erupts, is sort of a layman's explanation, which is perfect for me to deliver because when it comes to volcanoes, I'm just that, a lay person. But it's a explanation as to why, how, when, and where a volcano will occur. The first bullet point here saying tremendous physical pressure is exerted on the material making up the core of the Earth, causing it to melt into molten rock or magma. Um, in short, saying there's melted rocks at the center of the Earth. I actually had a tough time trying to figure out the verbiage I would use for what is at the center of the Earth because I couldn't start out the bullet saying there's magma at the center of the Earth. So came up with material making up the core of the Earth. Moving on to the next bullet, due to constant pressure, hot gases and magma are always pushing against and sometimes through the Earth's crust. Um, Again, very simple. The hot magma and the gases that exist at the center of the Earth, constantly moving, generating, interestingly enough, the dynamo of the Earth, which protects us from the radiation of the sun, at least the lethal radiation. Um, but this this ball of lava that exists inside our Earth is constantly pushing against the core or the crust of the Earth, and all the plates are sort of being pushed out. They're being pushed from side to side. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening, and all this pressure and movement and grinding creates what happens at the next bullet. At weak points in the Earth's crust, pressure can escape in violent explosions called volcanoes. Now, they're not always violent explosions. Sometimes you just have magma leaking from a place, and it makes an interesting tourist photo. But for the purposes of this presentation, and for the purposes of the Northwest, because those slow volcanoes you kind of think about being in Hawaii. In the Northwest, you think about Mount St. Helens and other volcanoes that erupt quickly and in a fashion that is rather destructive. Going to move on to the next slide here. And that slide is threats posed by volcanic eruption. Again, in the spirit of the public education fact sheet, just sort of have a short list here, trying to get people the important information prior to the time that they lose interest. Starts off with lava flows, which are molten rock that emanate from a volcanic vent and pose extreme danger. I like the finality of this sentence, the nomenclature coming from our text. They destroy everything in their path. It sounds platitudinal maybe, but anything of use that I can think of that's had a lava flow go over it can sort of be considered a write-off. It moves on to volcanic ash, which is pulverized rock created by a volcanic eruption. Saying here, it is not safe to breathe for prolonged periods of time, and it can damage machinery. As far as the breathing part's concerned, that's mainly focused on the older and the younger among the population. For the purposes of your average adult, male or female, the old t-shirt over the mouth and nose is probably sufficient to keep them safe until the time that the wind can naturally wash away the particulate in the air. When it comes to machinery, it's a little more delicate. High-tech gadgets like turbines and helicopters can be ruined or compromised because of the ash in the air. Anybody that's seen Dante's Peak knows that. Moves on to lahars, which are liquid and solid materials loose during a volcanic eruption. They present mudslide and flood danger. mudslides due to the fact that there's increased moisture in the environment when a volcano goes off. There's rain going on and there's melted snow and ice, and so there's new moisture introduced into the landscape. And as these mudslides and things happen and everything, all the moisture goes downhill with its dirt and its loose logs, you get floods at the bottom of the mountain. And so there's also the flash flooding danger. One of the interesting features or hazards, you might say, of a volcanic eruption are pyroclastic flows, which are rivers of hot gases that flow faster than 50 miles per hour. I read that on USGS website. Downhill, and are incredibly dangerous. They are indeed incredibly dangerous, and they sort of just destroy everything in their path. They knock down all the trees, and when they get down to the city of Pompeii, everybody gets frozen. We know what that looks like. That was caused by a pyroclastic flow. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. And this slide's pretty simple. Same title as the last slide, threats posed by volcanic eruption, and it is the same topic, although this slide describes where to watch out for the hazards described in the previous slide. I'd say the meat of this particular slide is the rather intimidating image featuring trees that have been knocked down by what I would feel comfortable guessing was the Mount St. Helens eruption, because there were no mountains at Tunguska. The bullet reads, areas near to or downstream from a volcano are at the highest risk for damage and danger in the event of an eruption. Seems like knowledge pretty much anybody has, but again, the point is really just to make people aware of the danger that they're living in while they're watching daytime television or whatever. Everybody around here essentially lives downhill or downstream from a volcano, so I want to describe their living situation to them so that they realize, wow, I live underneath Mount Rainier, and it is dangerous to me. Moving on.